Welcome to Realtor Reacts. I have to make a small omission. I have been very reticent about doing any kind of reaction videos to fellow real estate agents. My reasoning here, particularly with active agents, former agents or retired agents, that's one thing, although most people hit retirement and then become real estate agents. We got a little thunder going on outside. The reason that I'm reticent to do that is that agents will have different opinions and different outlooks, and my opinion and outlook is no more valid than anyone else's. When we're endeavoring to be on the internet, sharing our perspectives, I like to think that we're doing so in order to further the understanding and betterment of the experience when it comes to buying and selling real estate. I have not pre-watched this video really at all. I'm vaguely familiar with this young lady. I've never met her in person. I saw one video of hers where she was working with another agent that I am familiar with and not particularly a big fan of. So that's not to say is that that relationship reflects upon her at all. I'm just not wanting to step on anyone in this process of producing this content. So I do have another young lady out there who's doing a fantastic job. Shannon, who happens to be in my office, and I've had the opportunity to meet on a number of occasions. I have gone back and forth with myself whether or not to have her on this show. And I think more or less I've decided that because we're in the same office and I don't want to risk contradicting her in any way, we're going to go ahead and elect not to do that. I'm hoping that everything in this video is agreeable, right? And if it's not, I'm going to advise you right up front that I'm going to actively try and minimize my criticisms as a professional courtesy, if there be any to be had. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in here. I'll let her introduce herself.
What should you forget about when you're thinking about moving here to the Villages, Florida, and what you may want to readjust your thinking when it comes to where to buy your home, this section to buy your home. And here in the Villages, I'm Robin Cavallaro. I'm a realtor here in the Villages, Florida. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, I'm the girl. All right. So this is a combination of all the buyers that I've had in conversations with hundreds of people thinking about moving here. What are their top 5 hot buttons besides the style and the amount of money they want to spend on the home, and things that, in my opinion, probably should not be the ultimate deciding factor because it's going to take you that much longer to find a home. So, number 5, worry about the bond. I know. They're like, are you crazy? That bond's a lot of money. Well, think about the consideration of the bond, because sometimes you may end up buying a home that you got to put a lot of money into, and you could have just moved in if you were paying the bond.
Put a dry towel in the dryer with wet clothes. Here's why. Why would you put a dry towel
over?
It's YouTube, folks. I mean, the ads are how folks get paid. So I apologize. Let's continue.
Time, you would have got a newer home, something more that you like, and you're not sitting there having to renovate a house because there was no bond, but it was, the older homes don't have bonds. So the homes are 20, 25 years old. they're probably going to need a little work.
So if I'm understanding her correctly, this kind of goes back to something that I don't remember what video it was in. But I had discussed this at a certain point, right? How big of a factor is the bond in your decision making? How much of a consideration should you be giving that? The truth is that everybody's going to answer that question differently. There is no uniform answer. Some folks are going to be highly offended by the bond. Other folks are going to understand it as exactly what it is, and it's just a special assessment that's placed upon the property. It happens to be amortized out over a prolonged period of time and has some other mechanics to it, which for some reason we've elevated the bond to this thing that it doesn't necessarily have to be. However, the opposite position of that is you could be, or most likely would be, going into a older model home, which is going to carry with it expenses in terms of modernization and updating of the mechanical system. So whether it's an HVAC, hot water tank, possibly the roof, particularly given the insurance environment today. And oftentimes when you run these two calculations, right, when you look at the cost of the bond and you look at the cost of replace and repair on an older property, you're going to find that given the ownership window, which this is usually a full-time home conversation, so that's going to be a 6 to 8 year window. If you calculate the annual expense of the bond on its amortization schedule, the annual payment, and then you look at how much the replace and repair is going to be, possibly even the remodernization of an older property, those numbers tend to be pretty darn close, right? And so on paper, mathematically, this tends to be a wash. And I'm fairly sure that's what she's conveying here. And thus, does the bond have to be this major focal point in your decision making? Again, everybody's going to be different on this. I try not to focus on the bond so much, and I tend to focus more on having the appropriate amount of space for your usage case and being in a location that fits with your personality. And I don't think we've ever touched on centralist and specialist on the YouTube channel yet. We'll probably cover that at a later date. Let's jump back in here and see what Robin has to say for, I believe it's number 4.
So don't make that a deciding factor. Make it a factor, but not the ultimate deciding factor when it comes to purchasing a home. Just keep your options open. That's going to be the theme of this video. Keep your options open. Number 4, I'm going to say activities. I know I have had buyers, they want to live in a certain area because they want to be close to where all the activities are. Well, you may end up buying a home near Lake Sumter Landing, and the bulk of the activities that you take part in might be south of 44. You don't know. So consider, again, keep your options open. Try to find a home that you really like, and don't worry about where the specific activity is unless, okay, if you are challenged with mobility and maybe have a hard time getting around, maybe you want to be closer to certain things that work for you. Activities, yes, but, you may say, okay, I need to be near the shopping, or I want to be near the hospital, whatever. Those aren't important factors, but the activities, you end up driving all over the place. So I use this as an example. I lived in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and Lehigh Valley is pretty big. It probably takes about 25 minutes at least to drive from one side to the other. I would have never thought for 5 minutes that I would drive across the Lehigh Valley twice in one day to go play pickleball. Never would have done it. But here, I do it all the time because it became part of my lifestyle when I moved down here.
I guess we're going to talk about specialists and centralists now. Um, wasn't intending to, but here we go. Um, and we have to. We have to in order to contextualize this. So, a centralist mindset when we're considering location, because this is really around location selection, right, and preference, is more about having general access to a wide variety of options. Okay, kind of going back to what she was saying, keeping your options open, although in this context, it's not about having home options, it's about having lifestyle options. Okay, centralists are going to gravitate towards locations that are going to be centrally located, hence the name, right? So, to give you some real world examples, villages like Largo and Benita and Santiago, Hillsborough in Sector 5. I'm blanking on a Sector 6 example, but around Sawgrass. Those, is it St. Catharines? Let me check. Yes, St. Catharines. So St. Catharines is going to be a great location going forward, in my opinion, along with Richmond in Sector 6 there. But a centralist is going to want to position themselves location-wise to where they can have a pretty even drive time, whether it be by golf car or motor vehicle, to the various activities that they're going to want to engage with. Now, I think what Robin is saying is that you don't know until you actually move into your home what kind of relationships you're going to develop with your neighbors and or your interest group. And what I mean by interest group is that folks who share your interests, okay, in various lifestyle elements activities, right? You might find softball is a great example, okay? You might find that you really enjoy softball and the league that you join tends to play more on the north complex, so softball complex, as opposed to one in the central area or the southern areas. Do we have a softball complex down there yet? I don't know. I think if we don't, there should be one in development soon. But if you bought a new home and you're in the southern regions, and the softball group that you're with tends to play more in the northern softball complexes, that's going to be a challenge for you because you're going to have to shoot up 301. You're going to have to go westward, hit 301, shoot up, and come back in on 466 in order to reach that complex in a timely manner. Golf cart distance, that's a haul, even with a gas car. So, but the challenge there is that you don't know that. There's no way for you to pre-know that prior to making a purchase. So focusing on the home in the location perks in the immediate space makes more sense. But that's more or less what a centralist is about. A specialist, and she kind of gives an example here, and I think it's a good one, right? A specialist is focused on a particular element. Now, the easiest example to give here is I want to be near a square, okay? Where that comes from is that during the lifestyle preview plan, whether it be the first visit, the second visit, or even if you're renting for less than a 2-week window, folks tend to kind of zero in on the squares. It's what they're exposed to. It's what they become comfortable with via that exposure. And so they gravitate towards that as a familiarity point, and therefore they want to be close to it. There is also a economical element to that, and that is that homes near squares tend to sell higher for a premium based on their location, and they tend to sell, they tend to be in higher demand, so they tend to sell a little easier in terms of days on market. But that's because of the underlying psychology there. The other example of a specialist would be the hospitals, right? We know that we have a particular condition that puts us in a situation where we're probably going to need to visit a hospital quite frequently. When we're doing a location selection, it may not make sense for us to pick a location so far away from the hospital. Essentially, a specialist is someone who has a particular desire and they want that location to be as close to that particular thing as possible. Okay? Hopefully I didn't over-explain that. Let's go ahead and jump back in here.
I have groups that play way up north, and I go and I play, and I don't think anything of it. So your lifestyle changes when you move here. Especially remember, a lot of you are retired and not working. you're going to be looking for something to do for those extra 20 to 30 minutes a day. So please consider your choices, that you don't necessarily have to be living right near what you do if you have the ability to get around. Now, if you golf 5 times a week, you might not want to live south of 44 because it's going to take you forever to get to the bulk of the courses right now that are between the sixes and, I'd say between 466 and 44. So just think about that. It all depends on what you like to do, but keep your options open. All right. This is another topic. They worry, where is the nearest pool? Again, I caution, don't buy a home because it's near a pool, because really the difference is probably 5 minutes of where you're going to have to drive. Now, when I say that,
if that, this is going to be a regional thing, right? The northern sections have more, excuse me, retract that. The northern sections have less community pools by count, by number, okay? But the area is laid out in such a way is that traversing it makes for fairly easy access to the pool facilities that are there. The central sections, being Sector 4 and 5, Lake Sumter Landing and Brownwood, when those areas were designed, they were designed with a suite of lifestyle elements in mind. And essentially there was a formula, and once that formula was established, it basically just got stamped out on repeat. So there is no shortage of pool access and convenience in sectors 4 and 5. 6 is getting there. 7 is a different animal with a different lifestyle priority package. So how important is it to be close to a pool? I mean, pools are pretty important. It really depends on how you're going to define close and how important. Anytime we're looking for a home, you're going to have a list, and you have your must-haves and you have your wants, right? And this is really key to be having this conversation with your agents, okay? What I must have, usually your top 3, okay? And what I want should inform your top 3, okay? There is no such thing, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but there is no such thing as 100%, right? In terms of finding a home, okay? What I'm oftentimes aiming for with my customers, and I share this with them when we start actually going out and looking at properties, which is about midway through the process, right? We're aiming for 75 to 80%. If we can get over 80%, right, meaning we have the 3 must-haves and a good portion of the wants, right, we should seriously consider putting an offer in. The likelihood of hitting 100%, of having everything, nah, it almost never happens, okay? You're more likely to get struck by lightning, to be perfectly frank with you, because it just doesn't work that way. Every person is so diverse in their wants, and then their wants change as we start getting into the realities of what's actually available, and we get into the realities of what was actually built, and when it was built, and where it was built, and all these factors start coming into play. What we want starts getting chipped away at. And so it's important that we really focus on the 3 must-haves. And that's going to be based on you once again. So let's jump back in here.
there aren't as many pools north of 466 as there are further south. The villages got smart when they were building these places, these communities, and they started to add more rec centers and pools as they moved further south. There is a map, I'll show you right here, shows all the rec centers, the doggy parks, the pools, if they're adult pool, family pool, sport pool. So, that's good.
You notice that map doesn't go into the newest sections. I don't know how old this video is. Let me take a look. 9 days ago. Well, sorry, Robin. I was gonna try and cover for you there. No, that map only goes down through Sector 5.
Goodness. Yeah. So just
I'm going to teach you how to make money online just like I do. I can make money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
keep your option open. Don't limit yourself. Next, the rec centers. I've had several buyers. Oh, I hope you can hear that. My microphone was my microphone was on the ottoman. All right. The rec centers. The rec center is not a place to gather. And what I mean by that is it's not a clubhouse where you just say, oh, I have nothing to do tonight. Let's go hang out at the rec center. They're probably not going to find a group of people just gathering. They're gathering at the rec center for a specific purpose. There might be a class or a group that they belong to that meets there. They might be having a party. So just remember that. Just because you're near a local rec center doesn't mean that that's a place to hang out. When you are looking for activities, I used to go. So here's the reasons why I go into the rec centers. Well, part of a tour, or if I need to get ID for someone that's visiting. We used to have to go to the rec center to sign up for pickleball tournaments and classes. Now we have the ability to do that online. So the times that you're going to go into a rec center are probably
Okay, so this is a villager perspective, right? Um, it looks like Robin is in. This looks like a colony patio villa, based on this wall here and the way that it intersects there. Um, why? Very rarely, very rarely. I will have a customer who will come back to me a few weeks later after we've gone through the closing. I've made sure that they've gotten settled in um, and situated in their home so that they can be comfortable. Very rarely do I have anyone come back to me and say, Chris, I'm just having a hard time fitting in. I'm having a hard time uh, getting going, right? Getting into the swing of things. On the rare occasion that it has occurred, I've always counseled them to just go into a rec center, right? The village rec centers have the family pool, they have the billiards. I myself, with resident um, sponsors, I guess you could call them, have gone and enjoyed billiards. I have been a recipient of a guest pass because I live in Bison. I don't pay an amenities fee, and therefore I don't have just general access to the rec facilities. But I've got a lot of friends in the villages, so have I made a day of just hanging out in the villages? Yeah, absolutely. I'll go swim at the pool. I'll go shoot some pool. I'll catch a movie on the square. I'll grab some dinner on the square. I've even gone as far as to play a couple rounds of shuffleboard. And what's the one where you throw the bag? Whatever one that is, where you throw the bag around. So I like to play in my backyard, right? I live here for 15 years now. So why would you want to be near a rec center? For general access, right? She's not wrong. Your lifestyle is going to be crafted more around the relationships that you build. Usually that's because you're engaging in similar interests. But how do you know what you'd be interested in if you don't visit a rec center, right? You can go online, sure, but that's not the same experience necessarily. You can go in the rec center, you can ask questions, they have a rec guide, right? They got a little paper stand in the regional ones, at least they used to when I would pop in and out of there. And you can open that up, and there's this whole paper with all these different activities. And I strongly encourage folks to look that over, right? There's a bazillion clubs, not literally, right? but there's quite a few. It's in the thousands, and you never know what might tickle your fancy, So you can go in there and you can meet people. You can meet people. I got to tell you, I've had this burning desire to get into woodworking. I have no idea why. Maybe because I was walking around in a rec center one time and I saw folks doing woodworking and I said, "Man, that looks like fun. That looks so interesting." And I want to sit here and I want to talk to these folks and I want to learn about their life experiences, right? There's a richness, right, in that, right? It kind of comes back to what I was saying in one of the insight videos about, when you're buying in the villages, you're really buying community. Take advantage of that. Get in those rec centers. Meet people. Take that experience and just have it, right? I don't know the first thing about woodworking. I've never, look at these hands. These hands aren't really labored hands, okay? I've swung a hammer, but, I would love to do something with my hands. But I never realized it until I walked through the rec center and saw other folks doing it. Okay, let's jump back in here. Being near a rec center maybe isn't huge, but it's certainly nice.
Slim. Maybe if you're going to use one of the 8 gyms in the rec center, that might be a consideration for you. And actually, the gyms are really nice. I'm going to refer to this. The Village's Chief did a video on the gym because he goes all the time. You want to check that out because he used to go to Genesis and now he uses the gym.
She knew his name was Village's Chief. Chief, again, I apologize.
At the Villages, and from his videos, he seems to enjoy it and that it's a lot less expensive. So that might be an option. If you're going to use the gym, you might want to use one that's close to a rec center. And for that reason, then you might want to pick living near one of those rec centers. All right. And this is going to be a quick one. So the last, number 1 item, everyone wants to live near one of the town squares. So here's my opinion. And again, this whole video is it's opinion based on fact. So I base it on facts and my opinion. Because that's why they come to me. They want my opinion. All right, so the town squares. If everyone goes to the town squares a lot when they first move here because it's new and it's exciting. But after you're here a while, you won't go to the town square as much as you did in the beginning. This is why I stress, do not limit yourself to purchasing a home that's within a mile of a town square. You do pay more for homes that are closer to the town square, but the amount of time you're going to spend in a car getting to a town square from where you live is going to differ by 10 minutes. Now, granted, if you're traveling to a town square and it's December, well, it gets late, it gets dark early, so that's, pretty much pain, but everything is well lit and, just be careful while you're driving your cart. But after you're here a while, you'll end up going to the town square when you have company because it's exciting. It is fun when you have people, or once in a while you want to go meet your friends. But for me, every night, that would drive me crazy. But there are people that go out every night. And then if you're that...
Sorry about that. The record limit got hit once again. For the life of me, I can't get these videos under 30 minutes. I apologize. I'm trying. I'm really, really trying. And it's always so close. 8 minutes and 53 seconds out of a 9-minute, 45-second video. I had actually been talking and responding to this part when the record limit got hit. And I had said something to the effect of, we treat the town squares like the child we're most proud of. We have friends and family who come and visit us in the villages, and we immediately take them to the square for a good time. That's really what the squares are for. They're for that socializing aspect. We're very proud of our squares as members of the community. So beyond that, the point I was making is that I was actually suggesting a little bit of an exercise. If you're a resident, take a look at your calendar, because you'll find this to be true. I would say after about 6 months, right? Maybe 3. Take a look at your calendar for maybe a 2-week window, and then just kind of calculate out how much time do you spend on the square versus how much time do you spend in the rec centers or any other venue aside from the square. You don't tend to use the square as a resident very much. Again, this notion of I have to be around the square, I have to have a home near the square for resale purposes. This is great, but for practical day-to-day application, it's just not the focal point that you're probably perceiving it to be. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here. This has been all right. Robin's killing it. She's hitting all the good points. So
And if you're that kind of person, well, then you want to be near a square. But for the most part, so pick a home that you like in a location that you like, and all the rest will fall into place. It'll be very simple, and you will absolutely love it. Thank you for watching this episode. I'm Robin Cavallero. I'm a realtor here in Florida. I hope you found this, what you shouldn't do when you're thinking about buying a home, interesting. And if you like that topic, maybe you want to stick around, and there's another video coming up. It's coming up in the end screen. Check it out and pick up some pickleball merch while you're at it, or some cool, fun designs. It's not just all pickleball related. All right, everyone. See you next time.
I take it Robin likes pickleball. Yeah, this was interesting, and she makes a lot of good points. I really I don't know if I reacted so much on this one as much as I just expounded on some of the points that she was making there. But I think there was some real value to be derived from that conversation in terms of when we're looking for a home, what really rises to where our priorities could and probably should be in kind of narrowing down what's important to us so that we can focus our search and get something that really works for your time here in the villages. Thank you so much for joining us again for this episode of Realtor Reacts. Man, I feel really bad about that whole Chief situation. Maybe one day me and Chief will become good friends and we'll go hit the gym together, and he can embarrass me on the bench press. I think I would probably feel better about it if he did so. So this has been Realtor Reacts. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great one. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Living the dream. You're still here. The video's over. Oh, okay, yes. Let me show you. So earlier I was talking about Shannon's channel and how I don't feel comfortable necessarily doing reaction videos with a colleague in my office. What I do feel comfortable with, if you're interested at all, is kind of sharing her channel information. I'm going to go ahead and do so now. Here it is. And I want you to pay close attention to what I do next, because I'm going to hit this button right here. You see how I did that? Okay. I'm going to hit that little button right over there too. Well, maybe I'm going to hit that button. Let's see. There we are. Now, beyond not being comfortable doing reaction videos with my colleagues, I want to point something out. There is no way. We got to have reasonable expectations, right? There's no way that I'm going to compete with this smile. Okay. Me putting my face over here is going to diminish the quality, right? There's no question about it. So feel free to stop by Shannon's channel. She's doing a fantastic job. I've watched a few of her videos, and I've derived an experience from it, to be sure. So feel free to go support Shannon as well. I do appreciate you sticking around post video here. This is not going to be a reoccurring thing where I'm going to pop in after the title card or the outro card. So go on, get out of here. Go play at a rec center.